Hey, welcome back. We're still into some intro to Maya tutorials here, and this is what we have talking about viewports today. And a viewport, when you open this up, is what you see right away, your workspace, basically. And so I can see right here, I'm working in a perspective workspace, which is very three-dimensional type of space. I can change the way that space looks if I'm using my select tool or whatever, and I'm hovering over this viewport, and I press the space bar. Now I have different options. I have over here, I have top, front, side, and my perspective. Now I can work in a workspace like this, and I can manipulate my objects here as well. So if I take that sphere from the top view and move it here, you see how it affects my other views. It will allow you to get more detailed in the placement of your objects and how it will appear from different angles. And so same thing goes here. I'll raise this. Notice how when I'm in my front viewport and I'm moving it along this plane, this y-axis, the top viewport does not change. That's because I'm looking at it from a top-down view. Now, if I go below this marker here, the grid appears because now my object is below this grid. So kind of has some benefits to moving around and working in multiple views like this. Now, if I wanted to permanently work in a view like my top view, I can hover my cursor over this and press spacebar again, and now I'm in my top view. Now I can navigate around this space. I can press Alt, and I can middle mouse click and move around and pan left and right, up and down. And I can also use my middle mouse button and zoom in and out in this way. So I can also hold Alt and right mouse click, and I can zoom in and out by doing this. And so it all depends if this is too jerky for you. If I'm using my middle mouse button to scroll in and out, see how it kind of bounces from one to the other. It's not as smooth as using right mouse clicking, and now it's much smoother moving this way. So if you want to get more specific with how your view looks, then using your Alt button on your keyboard as you're navigating around in this. Now in these two-dimensional views, you're only going to be able to manipulate this panning, which is your middle mouse button that I'm dragging around while holding Alt on the keyboard, and right mouse button this way. And I can still, like I said before, you can middle mouse scroll if you have that feature. Now if I hit space bar again, and I move back to my perspective view, I can do the same thing, middle mouse scroll back and forth. I can hold Alt, and I can middle mouse button drag pan in perspective view. And I can hold Alt and right mouse button zooming in and out like this. Okay. One extra thing you can do in perspective view that you can't in the others, because those other spaces are two-dimensional, is you can hold Alt and left mouse click and rotate around like a free roaming camera. And so you have that option in perspective view. But if I were to try that in a different view, I get left with this no kind of symbol, right? But I can still move around in other ways in these views. Okay, they have their benefits for working different ways. Other ways I can manipulate my view here is by clicking on these icons off to the side. So I can click on this, gives me my one view, whichever one I just worked in. I can go to here, and let's say I'm in this view, and I want to go here and back. I can do whatever I need to. Or if I want a split view, I just want to deal with just two views. I'm going to move this, but I want to move it close, but not quite, behind that cube. Then I can do something like that. I can move it around. Say I want it to look more like it's on top of the cube. Well, yeah, that looks like it's on top of the cube, but when I check here, nope, it's really not. And so in that case, what I would have to do is either manipulate it here, and it didn't move here, but it does here. How can I double check that to see that it all worked out right I can go to another view and see, yes, here it is. I can also move these views individually, just depending on which view I'm in, and hovering over. So now I have it centered here, looks good, in all these different views. And that's a way that you can kind of cross-reference the placement of your different objects. Another option that you have here is, say I want more workspace. Got a lot going on here. I want to get rid of this. This gives you inventory of what's all in your viewports. But let's say I don't need it for right now. I'm worried about being able to move around my workspace and move around my objects. I can close this right here, and now I have more space. Now I have this over here. What if I want all of this to be my workspace? I can click on my attribute editor. Now I have even more space. So I've kind of opened this up to see more workspace here. It lets me move around my scene a little bit better and allows me to make the most of all these objects. Or well, not that I have a lot of objects here, but let's say I did. Let's say I had a scene where I had a ton of different things and I wanted to get a good view of how all these things are looking together. And so you can start throwing some things out here and say, yeah, I want to see all these things, all the things. I want to see them all. And so you can place them however you want. And if you want to get a good look at how all these things look together, maybe opening up your viewport and getting rid of some of those extra panels might help you get a better feel for the environment that you're creating. So that's basically it for viewports and a quick little intro into that, how to manipulate them and how to move around in those viewport spaces. So that's all for now. We'll see you next time, guys.